You know, time is a notoriously tricky concept, especially for a 5-year-old. I mean, to a kindergartner, yesterday might as well be a decade ago, and the idea of life 100 years in the past, that is practically unfathomable. So let's dive into this explainer and see how we can use visual tools to help even our youngest learners organize some pretty complex ideas about history. Today we're unpacking a brilliantly structured kindergarten lesson plan. It's built entirely around the theme of past, present, and holiday, and it is just a fantastic case study in how educators can take totally abstract concepts, like the passage of time, and make them concrete, accessible, and honestly super engaging for kids from all sorts of diverse cultural and linguistic backgrounds.
To kick things off, we need a good mystery to solve. Think about how you would answer this fundamental question. How do we actually know life in the past was different from today? Seriously, take a second and ponder that. Because for a kindergartner who's basically living 100% in the now, the past is a really tough concept to grasp. It's not something they can just see or experience directly. So the educators behind this lesson plan came up with a really clever hook. They use what they call mystery objects to bridge that gap and activate the student's prior knowledge.
Just think about the stark contrast between a heavy, old brass candlestick and a modern light bulb. When teachers present these physical objects, or even just images of them, they don't just hand the kids the answers, they ask them to make predictions. They say, hey, which one of these do you think is from the past, and what clues helped you decide? It instantly turns history into a tangible puzzle that a 5-year-old can actually solve. And what's beautiful here is that the lesson plan actively encourages translanguaging. That means the kids are invited to use literally whatever language they feel most comfortable in, English, Spanish, you name it, to express their reasoning.
We see the exact same dynamic when we look at communication. Imagine a kindergartner trying to figure out how to dial a heavy, clunky, rotary phone, especially when you compare it to the sleek, glowing smartphones we all carry around in our pockets. To a kid today, that rotary phone might as well be alien technology. By comparing things side by side like this, students start to generate their very own observations. You'll hear them say things like, well, that one is old, or, hey, they didn't have screens before. This right here is the foundational step. They're gathering raw visual data about how life has changed. But once they have all these great observations, what do they actually do with them? Well, to make sense of these historical clues, we need a solid structured tool. And that brings us to the brilliant simplicity of the Venn diagram. The educators explicitly chose graphic organizers like this as a universal design for learning strategy. Basically, for English learners or students who might struggle with writing, a visual organizer completely removes the barrier of heavy text. Think about it in the simplest terms possible. It's just a way to sort out bustling, chaotic thoughts. Whatever is completely different goes on the outside, and whatever is exactly the same goes right in the overlapping middle. It takes a really complex comparison and turns it into a fun, visual sorting game.
And notice how the layout gives them a very safe, specific place to map out their thoughts. You've got a blue circle specifically for the past, a red one for the present, and that vital green overlap right in the middle for the same. Right below all that, there's a dedicated section to connect these ideas to a holiday. For a young mind, this is incredibly empowering. It takes the swirling, abstract discussion of history and pins it down onto a clean, organized worksheet. It turns an overwhelming concept into manageable, bite-sized pieces.
So the crucial takeaway here is that those isolated outer rings hold the unique traits of the past and the present, while that clever little overlap in the center catches anything they happen to share. In practice, a student might use a digital tool or just simple picture cards to place an image of a horse-drawn wagon in the past circle, a car in the present circle, and maybe something like wheels or traveling right in the middle. This visually forces higher-order thinking. They aren't just identifying objects anymore. They are actively analyzing relationships and drawing real conclusions.
By bringing in structured sentence frames like this one, we give learners the exact vocabulary they need to articulate the visual comparisons they're making on the diagram. The teachers in this lesson explicitly prompt the kids with frames like, this is different because, or this is from the past because. It's such a vital scaffold. It totally removes that fear of not knowing how to start a sentence, allowing them to sound like little historians. They are no longer just pointing at pictures, right? They are justifying their visual evidence with logical, structured reasoning.
For example, looking at an old stone well next to a modern faucet, a learner can confidently say, this is different because we used buckets in the past, but now we use sinks. See how perfectly that sentence frame unlocks the insight? The stark visual of the well and the faucet gives them the context. The Venn diagram gives them the mental structure to compare the two, and the sentence frame gives them the voice to actually explain it.
It's just a complete, beautifully designed learning loop that brings the whole concept home.
Okay, let's pivot to our second powerful visual tool and see how a mind map builds on these comparisons by letting ideas organically grow outward. Because while a Venn diagram is strictly about comparing and contrasting two distinct things, a mind map is all about expansion and connection. It allows students to take one central theme and literally explode it outward into various subcategories. This is absolutely crucial when you're dealing with multi-layered topics where ideas interlock and branch off into new, unexpected territories.
Notice how the central concept anchors the whole page here, allowing these distinct pathways for the past, present, and holidays to just branch right off. And there are visual supports built right in. A little covered wagon for the past, a smartphone for the present, a decorated tree for the holiday. These icons act as permanent visual anchors. They remind the students exactly what each branch represents without them needing to read a single word. It's a beautifully intuitive way for young brains to navigate complex information.
You know, for a kindergartner, staring at a blank piece of paper can be incredibly overwhelming. But this structure, it acts as a perfect little roadmap for the brain, guiding a learner step by step from one core idea into several highly organized subtopics. And the teachers model this explicitly. They don't just hand out the paper and say, good luck. They guide the class through filling it out together first. They might ask, hey, what goes in the pass bubble? And a student might draw a candle or write the word if they're able. It breaks a really complex, multi-part task down into achievable, satisfying steps.
And this brings us to a really engaging application of these tools, understanding how our modern celebrations serve as bridges to history. The lesson asks the students, how do holidays help us remember people and events from the past? The brilliant thing here is that the teachers use holidays the students actually celebrate in their own lives, whether that's Dia de los Muertos, Lunar New Year, or Christmas. By starting with the students' own lived experiences, they create this natural, relevant, and emotional bridge right back in time. History isn't just old, dusty objects anymore. It's the rich traditions they celebrate at home.
If we synthesize the lesson's Thanksgiving example into a table, we can clearly see how a holiday is really just a structured way to remember specific people, a past event, and a lasting purpose. Think about it. What is a holiday if not a structured way to remember the past? The teachers model this by explaining that Thanksgiving remembers the event of the first harvest, the people who worked together long ago, and its purpose is simply to be thankful. The students then take this framework and apply it to their own chosen holiday in the bottom section of their mind map or Venn diagram. They are actively synthesizing history with their own modern-day lives.
So whether you're sitting in a kindergarten classroom or a high-stakes corporate boardroom, mastering these graphic organizers allows you to turn random observations into deeply connected, actionable insights. Just look at the journey these 5-year-olds take. They start by simply noticing that an old well looks different from a modern sink. They organize that thought into a Venn diagram. They expand on it with a mind map. And finally, they connect that historical difference to the holidays they celebrate with their families today. It's an incredible progression of higher-order thinking, and it's all made possible through visual structure.
I'm going to leave you with this final thought to explore on your own. Grab a piece of paper, pick your absolute favorite tradition, and see how beautifully these tools can map out your own history. Try drawing a quick mind map for it. What are its historical roots? How do you celebrate in the present? What is its core purpose? You'll quickly see why these visual strategies are so remarkably effective. Because if a kindergartner can map out the complexities of time, imagine what these tools can do for your own bustling thoughts. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.